So good evening, all of you. So we'll get started. So it's always been said that the future of business belongs to the bold and the brave. And we have today a lot of young entrepreneurs who are taking the charge. Okay. Dinesh Arjun is one of them who has helped come over the initial hiccups of starting a business and taking it to larger heights. So when I was told about this discussion that we are going to have today, I attempted to understand a little bit about his profile. So quite honestly, at the end of my discovery phase, I would sum up my expression as curious, surprised, and in awe. So without much ado, let's get into the discussion. Thanks, Dinesh, for being part of this discussion. So I think this discussion is for 20 minutes, if I am right. So we'll keep the format this way. First few questions related to the topic, which is dorm room to the boardroom, which essentially we'll try to delve into understanding his dorm room to boardroom journey. Post which, cherry on the ice, time permits, we'll have 2-3 lighter questions or offbeat questions to keep this conversation a little into a lighter mode, and we'll take Q&A towards the end. So, warm welcome to you, Dinesh.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, I would like to start by asking you the topic, basically, the title of the topic, where we all know, as we start with, typically in our young age, we have lot of ideas, we have lot of aspirations, but as we keep moving, we realize that many of them do not see the light of the day. And we end up saying that, okay, it's fine, and we kind of even feel settled with the idea that we've not reached where we have to, right, or where we aspired to have reached. So my question to you would be, now your journey from the dorm room to the boardroom essentially means, did you have such business ideas at that point in time, your school time or your college time? What was your business idea? Did your first business idea see the light of the day?
No, sure. But firstly, thanks NASCOM for having me. Thank you for those kind words. So yes, Raptee is technically my third venture. I've been into automotive retail and manufacturing for a little over a decade. That essentially means I did start during undergrad, right? Fortunately for me, I went to a government school. I went to Madras Institute of Technology here in Krompet, which means I barely had maybe an hour of class a day, which means I had a lot of free time in my hands. I was just bored, so kind of started understanding what I could do with my free time, and that's how I landed into entrepreneurship, right? So I would say I'm an accidental entrepreneur that way, and that's how I got into it. But I mean, calling Raptee a success is not true yet, because obviously my third venture, which is the electric two-wheeler company that we're running, we're still not in production. However, we're a 4.5-year-old company today, where we take pride in the fact that we're one of the companies which has created the most amount of patents in terms of powertrain tech there is in India, but our products are yet to see the light of day. So we're still not a successful company, so to speak. But yes, I think a lot of my years in college kind of helped me get into entrepreneurship, right? When it was, again, I didn't graduate too long ago. I finished school in 2012 and I graduated in 2016. But entrepreneurship definitely wasn't looked at the same way it is today, especially in a conservative city like Chennai, right? When I did tell I remember after my first semester or second semester, I went back to school to meet my teachers in school, and I told them I'm thinking about starting up this company. And then the first question they asked is, you didn't have to really get through school or join an engineering college to start a business. Why did you do that? Why are you wasting your life on business, right? And today, less than 10 years later, the scene is completely different, right? Again, this might not be the same case in cities like, let's say, Bangalore or Mumbai, but Chennai was definitely very conservative that way. And yeah, I mean, in some ways, I'm thankful that my family kind of was supportive of this, but I'm not sure if I answered your question straight, but yeah.
Yeah, remaining glad that you shared your apprehensions as you started with, or the people around you sharing their apprehensions with you. So, a little bit on your current business idea for the benefit of audience here.
Sure, yeah. So, my venture is called Raptee. We're essentially an electric motorcycle company. We make motorcycles which are electric. The difference here is, without getting into too much tech, we're essentially re-engineering the architecture on which electric two-wheelers are made. We work on high voltage drivetrain motorcycles, which essentially means these electric motorcycles are faster, a lot more fun to ride than petrol-powered motorcycles. These vehicles do not require a battery replacement for about 12 to 13 years. More importantly, these vehicles can be charged anywhere, obviously at home and also at public charging infrastructure. So we're trying to make electric two-wheelers cooler than petrol-powered two-wheelers. We're a Chennai-based company. We're about 140 people strong. We have a factory near Katipara. We're probably the only automotive company to have a factory within the city. And we're about a month away from launch.
Okay, so good round of applause to him. So we are talking to a entrepreneur today who's going to gain lot more limelight as his vehicle is going to be launched, and glad to be speaking to you, just before your launch. Okay, so again, closer to that question, Dinesh. So we see that there are ideas, people do have ideas, and these ideas actually even travel longer, but where it gets terminated at the time of conversion into a business. So the idea does not ideally fructify into a business per se. Now, the reasons for this could be many. Like, for example, it could be lack of understanding of the business ecosystem. It could be lack of understanding of, the legal or the regulatory requirements that comes along with the business idea. It could also mean that most important aspect is funding, capex, where people may not be clearly aware of what are the roads to take to get there, to get these funding and all of this stuff. Now, you yourself told that you have set up a manufacturing plant at Manapakkam, which is in the heart of Chennai. I am sure this is no mean achievement to have it right in the center of the city, setting up a manufacturing plant, right? So my question to you would be, how did you bootstrap your business, A? B is, how would you call your traversal across the government corridors to really get here?
Sure. Manapakkam is not the heart of Chennai, but I'll take that as a compliment for the factory.
So Chennai is now become Greater Chennai. Right. So all parts we call center of Chennai. No issues. Right. Yeah.
No, so to kind of take a step back, right? I think every time I talk about being an electric vehicle OEM, I get a lot of kind of beef for it because there's so many players, or at least there were a ton of players in the market. But when we started, just to kind of give you an idea, because you spoke about from idea to execution, the goal for us was never to start an electric two-wheeler company. It was not to build a brand. We were, the only reason that we started was when we conceptualized this in 2018, there were already two large OEMs which were trying to get, or which were already mass producing electric two-wheelers, and the adoption simply wasn't happening, right? I remember, I think the adoption then was 0.3%. Today we have a couple 100 odd brands, and penetration still in the high single digits. It's not crossed the single digits yet. Obviously in the scooter space it is a lot more, but if you look at a two-wheeler industry as a whole, it's still in single digits, right? And this is the problem that we're trying to solve. So the problem stayed the same. The idea, when it got executed, kind of evolved along the way, right? So I think it's very important for us to understand what problem are we looking to solve, and kind of persevere towards solving the problem, not just get stuck up on the idea and keep working on it, right? Sorry, what was your second question again?
traversing the government
Right.
corridors.
No, so luckily, I think we Raptee takes pride in the fact that we've been one of the companies which has been supported greatly by both the state and the center. Luckily, we've been, again, right place at the right time probably, but we've had the opportunity to leverage the EV boom that's happening in Tamil Nadu. We've had the ministry's support in terms of both in terms of setting up the factory, in terms of getting subsidies, and also recently, about 6 days ago, we also received a grant from the state for setting up our factory, right? So, and if you look at from the center, again, we're the only OEM to have been invested in by the certifying authority of automobiles itself. Basically, that's a conflict of interest, but it kind of still sailed through. But we've really been, the only way to say this is we've been at the right place at the right time. We were there. We were taken to. We were part of the Davos Expo twice in a row, which is by the state and the center. So, luckily for us, I think the scene has been amazing. Last 3 years, I don't think we would have been able to grow this fast without the support of the government. But yeah, I think that's fact.
Yeah, so just to follow up to that, now, see, for a young entrepreneur like you now, tomorrow, who wants to convert their idea into a business, now what do you think would be the role of networking or mentorship? Now, where do they seek this information, or where do they get idea on the resources they have to get into the financing, funding part of it? And can you share something that helped you to reach these resources quickly?
No, 100%. So I think everything that we are today, right from getting funded to getting the government support that I just told you about, I think has been through networking, right? For example, excuse me. One of our biggest supporters was Mr. Ram Narayanan, who was a speaker earlier today, who helped us connect through NASSCOM, right? I think we got got connected to Ram through my alma mater, and then he put me across to NASSCOM, and then NASSCOM, we became one of the companies under the Deep Tech Club at NASSCOM, which then gave us access to so many people. Right, I think just as being part of NASSCOM, we've again, not to preach NASSCOM sitting here, but as a fact, we've actually been able to leverage NASSCOM greatly, and that's how we've kind of sailed through. Right, there were a lot of companies which had been funded about 10 years ago, grown to be multi-million-dollar companies, who are now mentors at sessions like these, and then we get connected. But yeah, long story short, networking plays a huge role, and I think, and that's my job as CEO. Obviously, my co-founders do all the heavy lifting in terms of getting the product ready, ensuring the product works well, but my job is essentially to network and ensure the company stays afloat.
Okay, so thanks for those insights. So the answer is the organizer of this discussion itself. So NASSCOM
Right.
has helped in many ways to get you the resources, is what you're saying. Okay, thank you. So the next thing I also wanted to ask is, now innovation is key to staying competitive, right? Especially in your domain, like the automobile domain, innovation happens to be the key differentiator between competing brands today. So what do you think is the role of innovation in the future of business in general and your industry in particular?
Yeah, no, I think we've been speaking. I mean, I think in general, innovations as a word is being thrown around way too much that nobody really takes it very seriously. I'll maybe kind of narrow a little bit and talk about what I believe is demographic specific innovation, right? So whenever anybody starts up, whenever any company, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in your company as well, we're not generally looking at a very large audience, right? We start off with a niche and maybe grow around. So if your target audience in itself is a niche, then don't you specifically have to innovate for that niche, right? So, and that's, if we take Raptee, for example, we're trying to build motorcycles specifically for the Indian market, right? We're not, though we might export at a later point, but we'll export to India-like markets, not, let's say, I'm not looking at exporting to the US or Europe, or at least Western Europe, because that's not the segment that we're building our product for. So I think demographic-specific innovation is more kind of important than just saying, yes, we're innovating. I think our time's up, but I'll just kind of wrap this up, right? So we're building a product that specifically caters to how we look at motorcycles, right? Motorcycles in India, largely, the lifetime is usually 11.5 years, which is non-existent anywhere across the world. So how do you now make a product which in most countries lasts only 2 years, but has to last roughly 5x the time, right? Then you even innovate specifically for that. So I think that is what is required, not just innovation as a
Yeah, so thank you. So getting more specific would be more relevant or important is what you're telling. Possibly 5 more minutes we'll take and we'll wrap this up. Yeah, so the next thing I wanted to also ask you was, now none of us would have forgotten the India's stupendous T20 World Cup win, right? So now Surya Kumar Yadav, if you remember, he had took a catch on the boundary line. Now, I saw a post on LinkedIn which relates this to startups and entrepreneurs, where it says that, you know, even if you are slipping out of the line, do not, even when things are slipping out of control, do not step out of the line when you're doing your business, right? So doing your business involves a lot of ethical consideration, lot of principles that you have either understood, got inspired by somebody, and I would like to know, what are these principles that you bear in mind while you're running your business today?
Okay. Now, see, again, for us, very specifically, right, we're a very young organization. The average age at Raptee is 22, right? And the problem with handling people who are 22 years age is that everything that I do, everybody repeats. It's like, you know, like you can see, probably not something that I should be saying here, but we had an incident where in customs, we had to get something cleared, and you know, the only way to clear that was very simple, because the paperwork was all set, but there was just some error that the vendor had made, that there was no way to kind of go back and correct it, because if you replace the invoice, it just wouldn't sail through. So the only way to do that was give the customs, obviously bribe the customs agent about $1,000, right? Again, I shouldn't be saying this out loud, but it kind of went through. And the very next time it happened, what popped out was, okay, Dinesh did it last time, so why can't I do that again and speed up the customs process, right? So this was something that happened very early on when we were like, 8 people strong. Today we're 140 people strong, right? It was very clear that we're not running an organization which has legacy, which has heritage, which has processes already in place, which means whatever I do essentially becomes process. So that's kind of when we realized that, okay, if we're going to build a company which is 140 people strong and kind of doing the things right, we need to, as co-founders, kind of, even though it might look very tempting, kind of set things right. So we kind of took it as a policy that even if it means delay of the product, we'll go the right way moving forward.
Yeah, so that resonates a lot with a direct kind of a mindset. Right. Okay, so 1 or 2 lighter questions and we'll just move on to the audience.
I think they want to wrap things up. Do we have time? Awesome.
Okay, fine, thank you. So maybe then we'll go for the audience Q&A directly.
Awesome.
It's just a short question, and first of all, very inspiring to see you so young with such a good company. Looking forward for your launch. I think EV is the space which every automotive OEM is going towards. So I think hats off to your venture. So it's a short question. Is age a barrier to start a startup?
I really doubt it, because I think the other panelists who unfortunately couldn't come here, I was just looking at his profile. He had serial entrepreneur in his resume, and he's already exited 2 companies. And I was looking at his age, and he's still not even graduated college. So I felt very very old. I'm lucky that he didn't show up. But yeah, to answer that, yeah.
No, the other way around. Can a person of the age of 50 can do a startup?
Why not? I guess. I wouldn't.
With your experience, because you said your company's average age is 22, right? Which, obviously, I think the dynamics and the way you approach towards innovation would be definitely different than a person who is at that age.
So just to give you a personal example, my dad started up after I did. So my dad was 55 when he started up. So yes.
Interesting. So I'll catch up with you offline. Okay, thanks.
And I think there was the previous speaker who was talking about how retired people's abilities can also be capitalized for different purposes. So I think similar answer is what I think I would also want to add. Any last question before we?
So you've triggered my mother's mind here. So I would love to know, what are the 3 things, I'm Radhika, what were the 3 things which you would tell to anyone out there who wants to start up a business, a youngster? 3 things, like 3 challenges which gave you a great lesson to start off. 3 challenges you traveled, got over. What are the 3 things, if I could ask?
So I think obviously at least in my context, the biggest problem, just because of the nature of the business that we're running, is capital. So capital was always a challenge. Again, finding a niche for ourselves from what we're building, not just in terms of what target market we're building for, but what are we building, what are we bringing to the table? Because if there are 300 other players in the market, there needs to be something that sets me apart completely, right? There cannot be another player who can come up tomorrow and say, okay, I'll also make the same thing. You no longer have a differentiator. So finding that specific niche for us. And I think the most important thing, and the thing that kind of keeps us alive today, is kind of building the team, right? Today we have 3 levels in the company which operate autonomously. They have their own budgets. And that's the only thing that really takes Raptee forward. So setting that team up was, I think, the biggest challenge and also our biggest asset today.
Can I top it up with one more question?
Sure. Do we have time?
One more question, please.
Just one last one. I will just finish with that.
Yeah, just one more. I was asking about, we have a business, so anyone who wants to start a business is very keen, okay? He buys his idea first. So what is that where you did mention it is a conservative Chennai and how difficult? So that conservation is there around when you start a business. So what was that one thing which made you swim over those challenging times before you started?
I think a lot of people call me stupid for moving back from the US. I think I always wanted to start up, and whatever had happened, even whether I'd gone to the US or not, but if my professors or my teachers had told me to do it or not, I would have still done the same thing. Because, I think in reality, I'm too lazy to do a 9-to-5 job. So, yeah. Thanks for the question. Appreciate it.
Well, on that note, we've run out of time. I'd like to request all of you to please give them both a big round of applause. We'd like to thank both Dinesh and Kalpana for that very inspiring session.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.